Outer gangers wearing power armor, nukes, and sniping the Legion. Today, I spent 24 hours in modded Fallout New Vegas. The only rules for this challenge is I was going to start with a 9mm pistol, and just so I couldn't get too powerful, basically. That's the only rule. With that being said, let's go. I first picked my special stats, and then I picked my skills of barter, guns, and lockpick. As for my traits, I picked skilled and trigger discipline. I then dropped all of my items and went over outside to test these weapons. They were really sick with the animations. I then went over to Sunny Smiles and shot the bottles with the new varmint rifle animations, which were pretty cool, and I learned how to prone. I then decided to go gecko hunting with Sunny Smiles, because I don't really ever do it, so I just decided to. I then picked up some stuff for Sunny Smiles because she requested it and it would get me XP. I then made some healing powder, basically completing her quest. I then went inside to pick up Ghost Town Gunfight, and then I killed Joe Cobb without starting the Ghost Town Gunfight finale. I then went over to Sunny Smiles and she said she'd help out. I then leveled up and took Swift Learner. I talked to everyone around the town to get all their items so I could be prepared for the gunfight. I talked to Chet to get some leather armor here for the extra damage threshold. I then killed the powder gangers and made my way towards Prim. Along the way, I found some more powder gangers and dispatched them with my new shotgun. I then headed towards Prim and dealt with the escaped convicts there, which were pretty easy thanks to the varmint rifle. I then went inside the Bison Steed to deal with more convicts. The escaped convict leader had an incinerator, which came in handy. I then talked to Deputy Beagle and set him free, and then we had to get the sheriff for Prim, which was pretty simple. We headed over to Mojave Outpost. On the way there, we got ambushed by a bunch of jackals, which I had burned with the incinerator. I then went inside to deal with some more jackals. And then on the way towards Mojave Outpost, I came across these rad scorpions, which they were going flying. It was wild. I then got a level up from that and decided to put points in lockpicking and pick the educated perk. I then did a quest for a ranger at Mojave Outpost to kill some ants so I could get the service rifle. The service rifle was pretty sick. The animations were really good on it and I really liked it. I then got the extra troops and talked to Lieutenant Hayes, who said, "Alright, everything's good." And from that, I got a level up, and then I headed over to grab Lucky. I then went to Nipton to kill Oliver Swanwick. I then, to end out the hour, I grabbed some items in Nipton Town Hall. At the start of hour 2, I finished up looting Nipton Town Hall. I then headed outside and tested out this 10mm submachine gun I had found, and it was pretty heavy with its recoil. I then tested it out on some jackals, which were pretty easy to kill. I then traded and killed some Viper gunslingers along the Highway 95 road. These Viper gunslingers were pretty deadly because I didn't have a lot of stim packs at the time, so I was very worried about dying so far, but I didn't. So I got some stim packs from the doctor, and then I got that gun from Novac. I then talked to Manny Vargas to pick up his quest. I killed Malcolm Holmes to get his Sunset Sarsaparilla caps, but I never ended up completing that quest, sadly. I then headed towards the Repcon facility and dispatched of all the ghouls that were there. Now, Repcon was very interesting because I talked to Jason Bright and did his whole quest, but this actually took me 2 times, because the first time, after finding the follower, I had ended up dying. So I had to redo that entire section of just killing Nightkin, so it took me around about an hour, but it took me quite a while, but I did do it. I then took everyone to the bottom basement, and then I went to go get all of the items required. First, the isotope igniting agent. I then got the thruster controls from Old Lady Gibson, and then we went back and we launched the rockets to end out the hour of hour 2. But for hour 2 ended out, I killed some gang members. But start of hour 3, some NCR deserters from one of the mods I installed came and attacked me. So with the Living Wasteland mod, NCR would have a lot of deserters come. I then traded with traveling merchants, and I then headed towards Boulder City, where I took a level up and put some points in, and I decided to take toughness. I then killed Jessup because I didn't have any speech. So I just killed him, and then I headed on the road, and then I wanted to kill these bighorners, but the issue with these bighorners is, yeah, they just keep knocking me over. So it was a very desperate fight, but overall I did kill them because the submachine gun is amazing. I then went to the Vindatron at the gun runners and picked up a bunch of varmint rifle supplies, and this scope was really sick. I was able to see through it with a B42 see-through scopes mod. I then headed into the Freeside and dealt with some thugs. I had enough caps to go into the strip, so I made my way to the strip. I then talked to Mr. Holdout to grab a little silenced gun so we could end up talking to Benny. But I didn't have speech, so I had to kill him. Because I pointed a gun at him, Benny got alerted, so the big fight in the tops happened, which we were able to grab a Magnum from one of the chairmen and kill the entirety of the tops, which was sad because I couldn't complete some quests now because the tops was massacred, but we did get all of Benny's belongings. I then had to talk to, of course, the NCR and the other guy, Volpez. I then leveled up a few times because of Benny, so I took some perks and skill points. I then headed towards Hidden Valley because they had some of the coolest power armor I would see within this entire run. I had to first grab the holotape to get in, but this armor was crazy. It was actually like real power armor. I then talked to Elder McNamara, and he told me to go deal with the ranger, so I blew up the ranger and he went flying. I then went over to the ranger's corpse and took the hunting rifle, which had some pretty cool animations. I then talked to the elder, and I decided to get head paladin Harden into being the elder, so I talked to Scribe Ibsen to start that whole questline. Then I talked to Paladin Ramos after that, and we did the whole thing with Scribe Ibsen, which brought us into Hour 4. Hour 4, I started by going to get all the holotapes. I took the Q35 Matter Manipulator, and then I took the Brotherhood of Steel holotapes. I then dealt with some fiends outside of the Repcon facility, and then I headed over to the Nellis Air Force Base to talk to the boomers. I picked up the quest of Volaire, and I took more holotapes from the Brotherhood that were dead there. I then went back and gave the tapes to Harden, so he became the Elder at this point. But there was one last thing I needed to do before I could actually get the armor. So first I leveled up, and then I went to the Silver Rush to deal with the Van Graff family. I killed the Van Graffs outside, which did a lot of damage with their plasma guns, but once inside it was very deadly, but I was able to kill the Van Graffs, and I ended by shooting Gloria Van Graff. I then went back to Elder Harden, and he gave me power armor training, and the glorious T45 armor. This armor was sick. I just spent a little while just walking around in it, because this armor felt amazing to walk in. I then went over to the Freeside to talk to the King. I picked up his quest GI Blues, where we were able to find out that Horus is a fraud. So I told the King that, and then after that, I was able to talk to some people in the Followers of Apocalypse's camp and to learn what the NCR was doing. I relayed that information back to the King, and then I went back to talk to Julie Farks, and Julie Farks told me what the King had been doing, and so I went over to get my pass to talk to the NCR inside of the distribution center. Once I got my pass, I talked to Elizabeth Kieran, who told me that the King had actually been threatening her. So I told the King all about that, but Pacer got mad, so I told Pacer I was just going to tell him what he was doing. So I informed the King, and after I informed the King, a shootout had apparently begun with the NCR. So I had to talk to Kieran to basically tell her that they didn't want to deal with that. So after that, I completed the quest, GI Blues, gaining us a level up. I put points in energy weapons and repair, and then took the fast metabolism perk. I then talked to the king to gain the Nothing But a Hound Dog quest, which had me take Rex to Jacobstown. So I got Rex to come along with me, and then I went out into the wasteland and I shot some cazadors with Rex, and then I went to Harwood's farmstead to deal with some vipers. I then took my hunting rifle and went to go deal with the mercenaries. Now the mercenaries had this crazy little gun that is one of the best gauze rifles in the game. Then made my way towards Jacobstown, on the way dealing with some NCR deserters, which were really simple to kill. I then got to Jacobstown, where I decided to go kill the fiends to get the brain for Rex. I first killed Cook to get his head. I then got the brain that I needed, but along the way I got Violet's head, and then I got Driver Nefe's head, because, well, I needed all the heads. And then the Powder Gangers sent out a patrol to try and kill me. So I killed them, and then I headed back towards Jacobstown, where I had to pay off Norton. I then got in and talked to Dr. Henry, where we completed the quest Nothing But a Hound Dog, gaining me a level up where I could put my points into barter and energy weapons, and take the strong back perk. I then, for some reason, wanted to see if I could do quests while disguised as a Powder Ganger, which, surprise, I couldn't, so I had to kill everyone. I then went to Black Mountain to get the crazy quest from Neil, and then I killed the Nightkin on the mountain, and I marched towards Tabitha. I first killed the Nightkin sniper, and then dealt with the other Nightkin. I then released Raoul, and I didn't really want to travel with him, so I told him to go to his shack. I then killed Tabitha with my caravan shotgun. I then picked up 3-card bounty from Major Daughtry, but I already completed it, so I just turned in everything that I had, and I was able to actually just complete that. At the start of Hour 6, I headed to the tops to see if the chairman would still be mad at me. Surprise, they were. So after that, I headed to the Atomic Wrangler to talk to Francine Garrett. I got the debt collector quest there from her to get more money and just to do more quests. I first talked to Grex to get his money, which he was very easy to get money from. These free sight thugs then decided to try and ambush me, so I was able to kill them. And yeah, they posed absolutely like no threat to me, so they were really easy to deal with. I then talked to Lady Jane to get her caps as well, and I was able to get actually quite a bit of money from her. I then went over back to Francine Garrett and told her that I had all the debts collected, completing that quest. I then went to Heck Gunderson to do Beyond the Beef. Now, the start of Beyond the Beef started with me going to the investigator's room and dealing with some white gloves. And, well, I mean, they ambushed me, but I killed them. I then leveled up from that, putting points into speech and grabbing my first actual modded perk of the playthrough, which was better criticals. I then went to talk to Chancery, and immediately he got ambushed by an assassin, which I had to deal with. I then dealt with the rest of the white gloves because they got very angry at me for killing that assassin. So I killed them, took the flamer, and just burned all of the white gloves that were shooting at me. So, a little dangerous, but I was able to talk to Ted Gunderson and get him out. But the issue with this is that everybody was mad at me, so I had to clear out the white gloves, and that failed the quest. After that, I headed over to the Lucky 38 to basically just progress the main story, so I talked to Mr. House and did his whole introductory thing. And then at the start of Hour 7, I talked to the follower outside of the Lucky 38, and then I headed towards the fort to continue the main quest. I headed to the fort, and once inside, I talked to Caesar and told him, "Hey man, can I go to the bunker?" And he said, "I don't know man, sure. Yeah, sure, man." So I inserted the Platinum ship, and we went in to reactivate the Securitron army in the bunker. Now, the Protectrons here were very easy. I mean, with the gauze rifle, I mean, they gotta be easy, so I was able to easily do that, and then I inserted the ship, activating all of the Securitrons there. I then found this Raider camp, which I believe is added with, one of the mods I have, I'm not sure though. And I found a bunch of Nike here, which I was able to kill, that tried to ambush me. I then dealt with some Deathclaws and sent them flying with my caravan shotgun, so that was pretty fun. I then found the Bright followers just dead here, I then opened up the Brotherhood bunker, and then I dealt with some NCR deserters near the Northern Pass. And speaking of the Northern Pass, I decided to stash a bunch of items and actually go do Honest Hearts. So I talked to Jed Matterson and we went to Zion. Now Zion is a very deadly place, so I had to deal with all of these white legs, and they were pretty hard to hit, but I got all of them and got some pretty cool guns with some cool reload and shooting animations. I went towards the Dead Horses camp and talked to the Burn Man, Joshua Graham himself. And he told me all about his story and all that. And then I bought a 45 auto pistol from him with a bunch of attachments to make it one of the best guns for me to use. I then dealt with some of the white legs on my way towards my objectives, and then I cleared out some Yaoguais. At this point, it was the start of hour 8 inside of the Yaoguai cave, so I was able to basically clear out all the Yaoguais there, and then I headed to grab the lunch boxes for one of my quests. I then salvaged a medical supply kit. Once salvaging the medical supply kit, I headed to the Sorrows camp to go speak with Daniel. Now, Daniel wants to leave Zion, but Joshua Graham does not want to leave Zion. He wants to fight for Zion. And so I decided we're going to fight for Zion. So I first killed some of the camps with the white legs, and yeah, I just dealt with all of them. They were very simple, because I mean, again, a gauze rifle is a crazy weapon. I then had to disarm the traps, which was one of my last quests, but I killed some Yaoguais, which I believe is a optional quest, so I dealt with them, talked to Whitebird, and we got the little, like, thing he gave me, and so we killed the Ghost of Shay, and got one of the best melee weapons, the Shay's Paw. I then went over to Daniel and told him everything's ready, and I said we're going to fight for Zion. During our fight for Zion, this took me like 20 minutes, because these guys were actually really tough, and I was running out of stim packs. But we were able to kill them, and by hour 9, we had basically forced them into retreat, and so we killed Salt Upon Wounds here, and he went flying with the hunting shotgun, but I got almost 3,000 XP, ending Honest Hearts by hour 9. Honest Hearts was pretty fun, but it won't be the last time I'll be in Zion during this run. After I got out of Zion, I got Joshua Graham's armor, which would become a staple in my armor set. Then the Van Graffs tried to ambush me once I was outside of the Northern Pass. Then went to the Gunrunners and sold a bunch of guns I got from Zion to the Vendatron there, making a bunch of caps. I then talked to Sergeant McCready at Camp Golf and got his quest. Now, Sergeant McCready's quest was very simple. I just had to basically get some documents. I then went to Bitter Springs and talked to Captain Gillis. Captain Gillis said that she needed a bunch of troops for Bitter Springs, and a con had to be cleared out. So I cleared out the con that was in one of the supply caves, which was pretty simple. I just talked to him. I then went back to Captain Gillis and gave her a bunch of supplies that I found inside of the caves. Once that was all finished, I then went over to the lieutenant and told him I'd be able to help him with his patients in the Bitter Springs Infirmary. So after I talked to him, I went to Camp Forlorn Hope. I went there to get the quest Return to Sender because it gives you a little bit of a prize at the end once you complete it. I then went to all of the camps to talk to all of the NCR officers to upgrade their radio stations. I killed some ghouls along the way. I headed to the next camp, and then the camp after that. I then dealt with some Freeside thugs on my way to getting a new companion. This started hour 10. At hour 10, I got Arcade Ganon as a companion. And then I talked to all of the rangers, asking them about some stuff, and then I talked to Sergeant Reyes. Sergeant Reyes told me to talk to the chief, so I talked to him, and then we got his Ranger Sequoia. After that, I talked to Sergeant Cooper, and we decided to raid Nelson. Nelson had a bunch of NCR soldiers we needed to get, so we killed all of the legionaries that were at Nelson. I even got a unique machete. I talked to Major Plotty. He was grateful for all I had done and decided to give Bitter Springs more troops. I then killed Caleb McCaffrey because, well, I forgot to do one part of Debt Collector, so that's actually finished this time. I then talked to Sergeant McCready and got some more troops. I then went to Colonel Sue, who told me to do some stuff around Camp McCarran, so I beat up this legionary to make him spit some information out. So it took me 2 times of punching him, but he gave information, and I was able to complete that. I then went to Vault 3 and dealt with Motor Runner. This was also the start of Hour 11 at this point. After that, I headed to the Legion raid camp that I had passed before and killed some legionaries and shot the powder gangers there. I then went to Brockflower Cave and took Ratslayer, the unique varmint rifle. I then dealt with some mercenaries to get their weapons. I then went back to Zion to grab the Survivalist rifle, which was an amazing rifle to use. I then talked to Captain Ronald Curtis about stuff inside of Camp McCarran. I then traded with the sergeant here, and then I went to Lieutenant Carrie Boyd and asked her about some stuff, and then Ronald Curtis asked me about why I'm outside, which was weird, and then I found out that he was a spy. So I tried to save the monorail, but I couldn't, so it blew up. And Colonel Sue was not too pleased about it blowing up, but I couldn't really do anything, so I told him it was destroyed, and he said, hey, if only we had gotten this sooner, but after that, we had completed the quest, and still got NCR fame. I then told him about the attacks on Bitter Springs, and that there needed to be reinforcements, so he sent some, and then I went to the Crimson Caravan Company and picked up some items for the lieutenant. Once I got to the lieutenant, I gave him the items, and we talked to Captain Gillis, completing the quest at Bitter Springs. So that came to the close of Bitter Springs, completing that quest. So after that was finished, I headed to the canyon near Good Springs to deal with some cazadors. I then went into the nearby town to kill some vipers to get the unique Love and Hate. I talked to Raquel in the Nellis Air Force Base, and then I talked to Argyle to basically deal with some of the boomer patients and help them out to get some fame for the boomers. After that, I headed to the museum to sit here and watch the long cutscene that he gave, and then I had to deal with some of the ants inside of the generator room. After that was all finished, I talked to Pearl, and we went over to raise the bomber. I attached the ballisettes to the first one, and then I attached the second balliset, and then we raised the B-29 bomber. After the bomber was raised, I decided to go back to Pearl, of course, and I got idolized by the boomers. I told House about that. He told me to go check in with the Omertas. Before I did that, I decided to go do some gambling to make some money. And yeah, we just gambled for a bit and made a little bit of money. I then killed some legionary assassins who tried to kill me, and this hunting shotgun was amazing. I was able to kill them very easily. And even this automatic rifle was really good. I then talked to Quartermaster Barden at the Hoover Dam, and he had so much ammo to buy, it was crazy. But after that, I checked out this hunting rifle attachment that I got, and the scope was really cool. I then killed some Night Stalkers inside the cave at Jacobstown, allowing me to get the unique Oh Baby sledgehammer. This was the end of Hour 12. Once Hour 13 had started, I talked to Dr. Henry and completed another quest for him. I then decided, hey, let's go to Old World Blues, one of the best DLCs in Fallout New Vegas. This DLC is unmatched by any other. I first talked to Dr. Klein, who wanted to give me an essay, but yeah, I don't really want to read all of that, so I mainly skipped it because, again, it's just an entire essay. But after we got out of that, I decided to get all of the personality chips for the sink. Now, the sink has a couple different things like the auto dock, the light switches, the toaster, all of that. So I decided to get all of that first. I tested out my little gun that he gave me, Dr. Klein. It was a really good gun. So my first thing I got was this little thing called the auto dock, and then I killed this thing called the super ego, and I got a sterilizer glove. I don't know if this is unique, but I took it. It was pretty cool. I then got the next little project, which is the biological research station. After that, I headed into this little complex to get my next thing, which was the sink. And then I got the jukebox after that. And then the next thing I grabbed would be a little later, because I wanted to deal with some enemies first, so I killed some lobotomites here with the amazing service rifle. Again, the service rifle, top tier, one of the best weapons. I headed to the X2 transmitter antenna array, which, I don't know why I didn't grab it when I was in here. I just grabbed the first light switch, but I didn't grab the antenna. I then went to this cave where I killed a unique lobotomite that had a crazy cool axe that I got. But I also got the toaster while I was in here, which the toaster is one of the best like sink projects. So I activated some of these. I hadn't actually finished getting all of the upgrades, but I just activated the stuff I had. I then got Muggy over here, which, if you know, he loves coffee mugs. I then got the book chute, which was another thing. I then gave all of the personality files to every single one. And then I went to Project X13, which is a stealth armor. Now, this took me, honestly, I think almost an hour, but I was able to upgrade the suit. So the first one, this was around the end of hour 13, completed the basic test. So at the start of hour 14, we were still in there, but I decided to take a break from doing all that, and I was just getting more upgrades for the sink. I then found this thing called Elijah's Advanced Lair. I don't know if it's Father Elijah's, but it was a very good lair. I don't know what a lair stands for, but it's a pretty cool rifle nonetheless, so really cool weapon. I then grabbed some more holotapes. I don't know if they're holotapes or just upgrades, but I mean, they're in the holotape shape, so I guess I'll call them holotapes. But I grabbed another one, which was cosmetic enhancements for the auto dock. I then went back to the X13 facility to do more general research for the armor that I was wearing, so we get +1 perception from this test. And then we do the expert infiltration test, another very easy, did this one on first try, so got that, and I upgraded my suit, getting +1 agility from this one. But I then had the robot compliance test. This one legitimately took me like 30 minutes. It just took me so long, but I completed it, completing Project X13. I then went back to the relay, grabbing the X2 antenna, and using it. This weapon was pretty good. I didn't even have max melee, and it was able to deal with the rad scorpions, or robot scorpions. I then went to this little, like, simulation room to deal with, basically finding the terminals. I then killed Gabe and headed to upgrade my sonic emitter. But the thing about upgrading this is, I had forgotten to do the thing to actually upgrade it, so I had to go back in and do that. I then released some of the Night Stalkers, and I had to do this twice. I hated it, but I did it the first time, and then I had to do it a second time. So after doing that, I gained a quick little perk. I then headed back to the think tank after that, and basically talked around with Dr. Klein, and told him about everything I had done. I got skilled in Wild Wasteland from the auto dock after that. I then went to Higgs Village, and I shot Stripe, because he's a little Deathclaw, and I had to kill him to get the bowl. So I talked to Dr. Boris here, giving him Gabe's bowl, completing that quest, and at around hour 16, this was around the end of Old World Blues, I shot at the giant Robo-Scorpion. And the giant Robo-Scorpion is one of the coolest things in Fallout New Vegas. I mean, I didn't even have to use any of the, like, terminals. I just shot him. But I talked to Dr. Mobius, and he was like, man, I'm sorry, man. I don't know anything that happened. And so I just talked to him. I was like, oh, you're actually the good guy. So then I talked to my own brain and told him to get back in my head. And he was like, I don't know if I want to, man. I don't know if I want to. And I said, yeah, you're going to have to come back into my head. So I was like, yeah, man, I'm going to come back into your head, man, I guess. So I had to go back to the think tank after that, shooting all of the robots in the think tank. And yeah, they were not hard because they don't really have much damage resistance. But I killed them all, completing Old World Blues. Honestly, one of, if not the best DLC Fallout New Vegas has ever had. But after we got out of that, I then had to deal with some legionary assassins who thought it would have been really funny to try and kill me. And I said, hey bro, you're not gonna kill me. So I then had to go get Arcade Gannon back, because at this point I thought that I could do his like little sub-quest with the Enclave. Unfortunately, never got to. But I was able to grab the Gobi Campaign Scout Rifle near the Legion. I then shot it, but for some reason the mod I was using, the scope was messed up. If someone could tell me why, that'd be great, because I was using everything that the mod said to. I then cleared out Cottonwood Cove of the Legion there, and then the assault on the fort happened. The fort assault took, I would say, around 15 minutes. It wasn't too bad, but there was just a lot of people. Like, that's honestly the only thing that happened with the fort. I then murdered Caesar, and for some reason, Gannon was like, oh, can you believe what that guy said? Even though I killed Caesar, but I sat down in Caesar's throne, knowing I had cleared it. I then got more ammo from Sergeant Daniel, who had so much ammo. This guy was like the 12.7mm king. I then headed to go get a special suit of power armor, which was guarded by so many Deathclaws. There was actually, like, I'm not even joking, 40 Deathclaws around me. So hour 17 was wild with this. But after killing all the Deathclaws, something funny happened. Just the armor was not there. I think because of one of the mods I had, if I had shot the dead body with a grenade launcher, it just didn't show up. So I said, ah man, I'll go to the Omertas and do the quest. So I went to the Omertas and basically did everything. I talked to Cachino and gave him the journal. Now this part, you haven't seen yet because I kind of had to skip it in my NCR video. But I had to basically talk to Big Sol to get Troik out of his contract. And he gave me thermite, so we burned down all of the stuff in the Gomorrah. Everything in the Gomorrah got burned. After everything was burned down in the Gomorrah, we basically headed up and just murdered Big Sol. And then I told Mr. House, I was like, hey man, they were kind of conspiring against you. And he was like, oh, okay man. But Mr. House told me to kill the Brotherhood, which I was like, I don't know if I want to, but I said, man, I guess I gotta. So I tried to pickpocket all the cards, but it didn't work out, so I had to murder all of the Brotherhood. But at this point, I'm level 33, so this crossed into hour 18, and, well, we just blew up the Brotherhood. Unfortunate that I had to do that, but hey, man, I have to do it for the house always wins. So that came to the end of that, and then Mr. House told me, hey, man, can you just go, like, protect the NCR president? And I'm like, why do you need that done? He's like, I don't want the NCR's president to die, because it puts blame on the NCR. So I said, okay. And I went to help out Ranger Grant at Hoover Dam. And I shot the legionary assassin, who just thinks he can kill me when I have a rifle and he has a sniper rifle. So I don't know what the legionary assassin is thinking, but he just cannot take that fight. So I protected the president, getting more NCR fame at this point. I was almost idolized by the NCR. I then went back to Mr. House telling him what had transpired, and he was like, alright, great man, everything's good. Go put in the override chip. And I said, okay man, I'll go put in the override chip. The NCR did not even hate me for going in there. But after that, before Hoover Dam, I walked the Lonesome Road. Lonesome Road was honestly one of my favorite DLCs. So this was pretty fun just to go back and do. I mean, yeah, it was honestly really fun to do. I killed some of these sentry bots who weren't super hard, but they weren't also easy. I first talked to Eddie, and we went to, of course, the Divide. I killed a bunch of Markmen getting Red Glare and the Laser Detonator. Now, I'm not gonna do the glitch with the laser detonator, but it was fun sending these guys flying. I then went to the marked man base and dealt with a bunch more marked men. I then went into this little, like, it's like a collapsed highway and dealt with some tunnelers. I found some flash grenades, then I had to talk to Ulysses. I talked to him before through Eddie, but he's just spewing a bunch of yaps, so I didn't really mess with him too much. I had to deal with some Deathclaws here, who were very dangerous. I then launched a nuke. I don't even know, I think this is launching it to the Courier's Mile. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it is. I think it's to the Courier's Mile. I then dealt with the tunnelers on this little, like, lift where everything's exploding around me. And, yeah, everything's just exploding. I'm just murdering tunnelers. Talk to Ulysses again. I'm like, dude, I don't care what you're saying, Ulysses. I don't care. And so I just kill more marked men. And these marked men are very easy, honestly, with the riot shotgun I found. Then Ulysses makes Eddie go away from me. I don't know why he didn't do that at the beginning. But, I don't know. I just ran towards Ulysses' temple, and here's, well, I got Eddie back. I mean, Eddie is one of my favorite companions, so I decided to get him back. I could have just not gotten Eddie back, but, I mean, hey, everyone loves Eddie. Let's be honest. I then went and talked to Ulysses, who just started, like, blabbering about random stuff. And I was like, hey, dude, I'm just gonna kill you, bro. And so at the start of hour 20, we had started the fight with Ulysses, and I ended up murdering Ulysses. And he had some pretty good things, including a anti-material rifle. I then launched the nuke to go towards the Legion, because, I mean, well, we're already, like, enemies with the Legion. I could have done the NCR, but I decided, man, I don't know if I really want to make it go towards the NCR, so I just didn't. And then I went back to the Vendatron, and I had sold a bunch of stuff I got from Lonesome Road, getting me over 20,000 caps. I then tested out the modded anti-material rifle, which was pretty sick. I then went to the dry wells, dealing with some more legionaries that were there, and dealing with Gaius Magnus. Gaius Magnus was really tough, even with the service rifle that I had, or the survivalist rifle that I had. But from this, I got his armor and a Fat Man, which, well, I love nukes. After that, we headed over back to do my least favorite DLC, so I'm gonna speed through this pretty quickly, because, I mean, I don't know if anyone, like, enjoys Dead Money, like, considerably, but yeah, I just decided to do Dead Money, like, as usual. So, first we talked to Father Elijah. Standard, he tells me to go get everyone. We get Dog first, and then, well, Dog actually came in clutch for, like, killing these guys. And then I talked to Dean Domino next after that. Dean Domino, I just told him come with me. Christine was the last person I recruited. And yeah, simple, standard Dead Money. I then went back to the fountain and told Father Elijah that, hey man, I have every single person. And he was like, great. So I then got everyone in position. First, I got Dog in position after having to do a quest where I have to kill a few, like, enemies. I then told Dean Domino to, hey man, come with me, man. And so, yeah, he came with me, and I just told him to stay, like, in this random spot. And then after that, we talked to Christine, and I said, hey, travel with me. So we took her to this little elevator. I don't even think I paid attention what it does. I just took, like, the good choice. I then leveled up, hitting level 40 at this point, getting a bunch in melee and taking the grunt perk, which would do even more damage with my survivalist rifle. We then triggered the Gala event, which opens up the Sierra Madre. Which, at this point, Sierra Madre, it looks pretty sick when it's getting opened. And then we got to the final part of Dead Money. At this point in hour 21, it was nearing the end of the run, so I wanted to get everything that I wanted done at this point. So I turned on the casino, and I decided to actually go gambling. So towards the end of hour 21 and the start of hour 22, we had just been gambling, because the Sierra Madre gives out pre-war money, which every pre-war money is 10 caps. Plus, I could buy stuff like super stim packs and mods for my hollow rifle. So I turned in my chips. This made me basically like 100,000 caps. I then talked to the dog and said, dude, chill out. So he would not blow up this like service room. We then talked to Dean Domino and he fell through the map because dead money is not very polished. I talked to Christine and she was thankful that I didn't send her up the elevator or send her down the elevator. So she was pretty thankful and we just went through like the normal quest line, just got a few things, and she helped us get towards the vault. Now the vault was pretty, standard. I just did everything to get to the vault, but as for the actual vault, I decided to not actually like try to trap and get all the gold bars and all that, which you can do. Like if you want to, you can, but there was a little achievement I needed to like kill Father Elijah, and I wanted to get the achievement on Steam, so I just decided to kill Father Elijah in the end here. And so yeah, we killed him, and the hollow rifle does damage over time, so it makes it very easy to kill him. And I even brought out a hunting shotgun I found, which was, yeah, simple. Shot him once, he's dead. And there, I returned to the Mojave Wasteland, ending the worst DLC in the game, dead money. We then went to the Vendatron, and I decided to give the Vendatron some caps and a bunch of pre-war money. Well, give him pre-war money to turn into caps. And I then tested out Esther, this unique fat man, which, it's amazing. This was around the end of Hour 22. Hour 23 started with me going to First Sergeant Astor and telling him, hey man, I'll help you with Camp Searchlight. Camp Searchlight is infested by these ghouls, which I should have done way earlier in the game. This would have given me a bunch of caps to start off with. I was looking for the holy hand grenades, but they weren't here even though I took Wild Wasteland at like the big MT. I completed an eye for an eye, which I don't know what it was exactly for because I didn't get all the dog tags, but I completed it. And then I basically went over to get something called the Tesla like prototype. It was falling through the floor, but I grabbed it and it was a pretty cool weapon. Even with all the animation packs I had, it was even cooler. But after that, we headed over to Raoul to repair it, costing me 20,000 caps. I went to Alice McLafferty to grab a few more quests, just to basically, make sure I had some quests to do. So then I told Thomas Hildren about an invoice he had with Alice McLafferty, and yeah, I just did that, went back to her, and she said, hey, I have another job for you. Go talk to Cass. So, you know what I did? I talked to Cass. Great, right? And she was, fine with selling her caravan. I then talked to Henry Jameson and told him, hey dude, sell your caravan. So at this point, Alice McLafferty was happy we had done all that, and then told me to go shut down a bottle cap press. And I'm glad to do that, so I just shut it down. Just ran in there, shot a few robots, and pretty much it. We then went back to Alice McLafferty, completing the entirety of the Crimson Caravan storyline. Then, before Hour 24, I decided to take on the Courier's Mile. The Courier's Mile is very dangerous, with irradiated Deathclaws and irradiated Mercmen. I completed it though, and then I went back to the Wasteland getting the sick minigun, starting Hour 24. I then found these Plasma Gangers, which I don't know how they got power armor, but yeah, they just had power armor. And then I was ambushed by Omerta gang members because I killed them earlier, I guess. Then went over to the Quartermaster to buy some ammo for the minigun I had gotten. After that, I headed to this NCR deserter camp that I had found, and I cleared out the area with my survivalist rifle at first, but I then decided to switch over to the minigun I had gotten, because this minigun was really, really good. I then decided to go to Captain Parker and pick up a quest he had called the Coyotes. For this quest, I headed to a building and found a ledger owned by Dermont. I then showed this ledger to Dermont, and he got pretty mad at me and tried to fight me. But I have a minigun, so it did not go well for Dermont. He ended up dying. I then went to Captain Parker and turned in the quest, completing my last quest before Hoover Dam. I then talked to Mr. House to finish the Hoover Dam fight. I killed some legionaries outside the dam first, just to test out how much damage I would be doing with the anti-material rifle, and I was doing quite a lot of damage with this rifle. I then went inside to deal with some of the NCR heavy troopers, and yeah, they were also really easy because the survivalist rifle was really good. I installed the override chip, and then I turned on the Hoover Dam. After that was all good, I headed toward the Legates camp and just ran in with some Securitrons to help me out. I then confronted the Legate and said, I don't want to talk, time to fight. Now I have the survivalist rifle, so this thing did a lot of damage, and I was able to kill the Legate pretty easily. I then decided not to talk to General Lee Oliver, but I decided to fight General Lee Oliver. So I shot him over with a riot shotgun, killing him, and then we just took out the rest of the Rangers, talking to Mr. House. And you see, I haven't actually completed the run, because even though I finished, because of this mod I have called post-game ending, there's an actual post-game ending now. So I headed just throughout to check out everything, and there were Securitrons everywhere. Securitrons in Freeside and even Prim. Pretty neat. But that completed the run. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe.